They say the devil is in these woods. That's the lore shared by old Mrs. Granger, a reclusive crone who dwelled on the town's fringes. Her ominous whisper ignited a chill within me. Yet, being a journalist recently relocated to this quaint Appalachian settlement, my innate curiosity was sparked. Every myth, every rumor was a story begging to be explored. The night I decided to brave the forest was balmy, the moon a full orb casting spectral light through the dense network of branches overhead. The farther I strayed from the comforts of civilization, the more the nocturnal hum of crickets and hooting owls fell away, replaced by a dreadful silence. The only sound was the dry crunch of leaves underfoot, amplifying the growing anxiety within me. Then came the smell, a sulfurous odor, thick and cloying. My stomach churned in revulsion, the taste of acid searing the back of my throat. The air seemed to thicken, the once inviting moonlight swallowed by a darkness so profound it was as though I had been plunged underwater. Switching on my flashlight, the light it emitted was but a feeble glow against the inky black. I was not alone. A whisper, ethereal and fragmented, threaded through the trees. It wasn't English, but something far older. The alien words, though unintelligible, filled me with a primal fear. They reverberated around me, amplifying in volume and hostility. I was a rat in a snake's den, paralyzed, my pulse pounding in my ears. Abruptly, the whispers ceased, replaced by an animalistic growl that echoed throughout the desolate woods. I pivoted, the flashlight beam landing on an unspeakable figure. It was humanoid, a grotesque exaggeration of height and leanness. Its eyes, twin orbs of crimson, seared a stark contrast against its deathly pale skin. It was an image of dread and despair, its gaze sinking deep into my being. "I've been expecting you," it intoned, the words a ghastly blend of hiss and growl. My heart felt ready to explode from the raw terror that gripped me. I mean no harm," I stuttered, voice trembling. The creature's laugh was a mocking sound, reverberating through the woods. "That's not for you to decide," it rasped, stepping into the light. Its movement appeared to incite the woods to recoil in terror. Leaves shriveled and fell, the ground beneath it scorched and cracked, as if nature itself rejected its unholy existence. My mind was in a state of pure panic, yet I remained physically frozen. Its presence was a vortex, pulling all hope away from me. The creature advanced, its bony fingers reaching out. As it neared, the chill of its shadow felt like the frost of death. Suddenly, the survival instinct overpowered fear, and I bolted. Each step I took was fueled by blind panic. The woods felt like a malevolent entity, branches slapping and scratching at my face, roots tripping my desperate sprint. All the while, the creature's harrowing laughter followed me, a chilling backdrop to my terror. Breaking through the tree line, I didn't dare to slow my pace. The safety of my home was my sole focus, each stride carrying me farther from the nightmare that haunted the woods. As I slammed my front door shut behind me, I collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath, my mind replaying the creature's haunting words. This isn't over. The woods didn't claim my life that night, but it took something else. It stole my peace, implanting a terror that now shadowed every aspect of my existence. Every dark corner might hide a pair of burning crimson eyes. Every silence might precede a guttural growl. Every stranger might be a devil in disguise. The devil did not follow me home that night, but its presence never truly left me. It seeped into my soul, a chilling companion who reminds me of that fateful night in the woods. The night I stared into the face of fear, and it stared right back.
They say you're never truly alone in the forest. The sage advice of my grandfather echoed in my head as I ventured deeper into the woods. I had always been an adventurer at heart, longing to test my limits, to pit myself against the elements. Yet the forest's all-consuming darkness, untouched by man's machines and lights, was a whole new realm of solitude. My headlamp cut a narrow path through the engulfing darkness, casting eerie shadows against the towering trees. The only sounds were the crunching of dry leaves beneath my boots and the occasional hooting of an owl. The forest was a different world after sunset, its nocturnal creatures going about their unseen lives while its diurnal inhabitants rested. It didn't take long for the inky blackness and overwhelming silence to infiltrate my senses. The rustling of a small creature in the underbrush would make me jump. Every shadow morphed into a lurking predator in the corners of my vision. The quiet was so profound that I could hear my heart's steady thumping. As the night wore on, the isolation amplified. I was a tiny speck swallowed whole by a timeless entity. The thrill of adventure started to bleed into a creeping unease. I felt exposed, vulnerable. The forest's ancient wisdom loomed over me, a subtle reminder of my insignificance. Suddenly, the headlamp's beam flickered before abruptly dying out, leaving me blind in the heart of the wilderness. I fumbled for my backup flashlight, but the batteries were drained. The darkness was absolute, a physical entity pressing against me from all sides. A sudden crack echoed through the stillness, shattering the silence. My heart pounded in my chest, my blood roaring in my ears. The snap of a twig or the creak of a branch usually signaled life, a comforting reminder of the forest's inhabitants. Yet this sound was different. It was closer, deliberate, an unmistakable sign of a larger animal. I held my breath, straining to listen. A soft rustle of undergrowth, then silence. It felt as if the forest was holding its breath along with me, its millions of eyes watching the unseen drama unfold. Then, without warning, the silence shattered. A roar erupted, reverberating through the trees. The sound was primal, a raw expression of power and ferocity that chilled my blood. I was no longer the adventurer seeking thrills. I was the hunted, alone and defenseless. I didn't dare move, didn't dare breathe. The minutes stretched into hours, each second pulsating with unspoken terror. When dawn finally arrived, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, I breathed out a sigh of relief. The forest around me stirred to life, the chirping of birds and rustling leaves a stark contrast to the terrifying silence of the night. In the comfort of daylight, I made my way back, every sound, every movement reminding me of the fear that had clung to me. Being alone in the forest was no longer an adventure. It was a test of survival, a face-to-face confrontation with my deepest fears. It was a lesson in humility, an insight into our insignificance against the raw power of nature. And as I stepped back into the realm of humanity, I was no longer the same person who had ventured into the woods the night before.
As an anthropology student, I've always been intrigued by the mysteries of ancient cultures and the tales spun by nature. The forest that enchanted me most was the Redwood National and State Parks, a stretch of wilderness along the Northern California coast. These woods were steeped in Native American lore, tales of haunting spirits and strange occurrences that would send shivers down the spine of the bravest soul. To me, these were not deterrents, but enticing mysteries waiting to be unraveled. On an overcast autumn day, with the chill of the Pacific Ocean in the air, I decided to venture into the ancient grove. My backpack was loaded with basic camping gear, a flashlight, and a journal to document my findings. The entrance to the forest was marked by towering redwoods, their monstrous height and ancient scars a testament to the centuries they had withstood. As I ventured deeper into the forest, the sunlight grew dim, filtered through the thick canopy overhead. The forest floor was a complex tapestry of ferns, mosses, and fallen redwood leaves that crunched under my boots. The deeper I went, the more it felt as if I was stepping back in time, far from the clamor of civilization. Time blurred as I traversed the labyrinthine paths. I felt a strange chill seep into my bones, the temperature dropping as a fog rolled in from the ocean, transforming the forest into an ethereal landscape. My surroundings became hazy, the towering redwoods stretching into the fog appearing like spectral figures. It was then I realized with a sinking feeling, I didn't recognize the path I was on. A sense of dread washed over me as I frantically tried to recall the way back, but every path looked the same. The tall redwoods, usually awe-inspiring, now seemed intimidating, their gnarled branches twisting in grotesque shapes, reaching out like the hands of trapped spirits. As I scrambled around in the mist, I heard an unsettling sound, a low, guttural growl. It was a sound that didn't belong to any animal I knew of. My heart hammered in my chest as I spun around, my flashlight piercing the fog, revealing a pair of glowing eyes. A shiver ran down my spine, but before I could react, a bone-chilling shriek echoed through the woods, overpowering the growl. The eyes vanished, the growling ceased, replaced by the sound of rapid retreating footsteps. My heartbeat was deafening in the silent forest. A realization struck me then. I wasn't just lost, I was stuck in a twilight zone, the forest hiding creatures unknown and tales untold. Panic surged within me, but I pushed it down, focusing on the path ahead. I had to survive. I had to find my way out of this redwood maze. But what other creatures lurked in the shadows? What was the source of the shrieking sound? I had come in search of folklore, and now it seemed I was living it. Was I destined to become a mere footnote in the anthology of haunting tales spun by these ancient woods? As the fog wrapped me in its icy embrace, I couldn't help but wonder if I would ever see the dawn again, or if I was destined to remain, forever lost in this redwood maze.
Ever since I was a kid, hiking has been my escape, my solace from the bustle of the world. It's always been just me, the rhythm of my breathing, and the path winding through the wilderness. But my last hike through the Sierra Nevada range was different. It was anything but peaceful. I had set out on a 3-day solo trek, planning to follow a well-marked trail through the mountains. My pack was filled with necessities and my heart with the exhilaration of the adventure to come. The morning was bright, the air crisp and cool, promising a perfect day for hiking. As I progressed along the path, the sun started to dip in the sky, painting the towering peaks with warm hues. The tranquility was a balm for my soul, yet there was a nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach, an uneasy sensation I couldn't shake off. Soon the serene landscape began to alter, the shadows stretching out from the forest lining the trail. The shapes seemed to dance and shift, playing out chilling pantomimes against the thick tree trunks. I'd seen shadows in the woods before, of course, but never like this. They seemed to have a life of their own, bending and twisting in ways that defied the waning light. I brushed it off as a trick of the light, a byproduct of fatigue, but the unease wouldn't leave. The shadows grew taller, denser, their forms vaguely humanoid. My heart pounded in my chest as every rustle of the leaves, every snap of a twig seemed amplified in the growing darkness. Trying to shake off my fear, I quickened my pace, but the shadows seemed to keep up. No, not keep up. They were closing in, reaching for me with long, twisted arms. I could feel a chill creeping up my spine, a cold dread settling in my stomach. That's when I heard it, a whisper, soft as a breeze. It was a name, my name. The voice seemed to be coming from the shadows themselves. Terror gripped me, icy and relentless. I broke into a run, my breath coming out in ragged gasps. The whisper turned into a chorus, my name echoing through the darkened woods. Every step I took, the shadows followed, their whispers growing louder, more insistent. My pulse roared in my ears as I stumbled and fell, my backpack weighing me down like a ton of bricks. I clawed at the ground, desperate to put some distance between me and the encroaching shadows, their whispers now morphing into laughter, cold and hollow. I managed to get up, my muscles screaming in protest, my heart beating like a war drum. I could barely see the path through my tear-filled eyes, but fear kept me moving. I ran until my legs gave out and I collapsed onto the cold, hard trail, the world spinning around me. Exhaustion overpowered my fear, and I slipped into a restless sleep right there, the haunting laughter of the shadows lulling me into a fitful slumber. When I woke, it was morning, the sunlight chasing away the dark and the lingering fear. The trail was just a trail again, and the woods, just woods. There was no dancing, menacing shadows, no cold, hollow laughter, only the rustling of leaves and the songs of birds. But the echoes of that nightmarish hike remained, a chilling reminder of the shadows that lurked just beyond the light, waiting for nightfall, waiting for me. Ever since that hike, the shadows don't seem the same anymore. They're no longer just the absence of light, they're carriers of terror, keepers of a nightmare. And each time dusk falls, I can't help but wonder, will the shadows whisper my name again?
Deep in the woods, where the sun's rays struggled to penetrate the thick canopy, I found myself on a solo camping trip. The tranquility of nature was both alluring and unnerving, as the silence seemed to hide something darker, something unknown. As dusk settled in, I lit a campfire, its crackling flames providing some comfort against the encroaching darkness. But no warmth could shake the feeling that I was being watched, that something ancient and primal lurked just beyond the shadows. I tried to dismiss my unease, attributing it to the wild imagination that comes alive in the wilderness, but as the night deepened, the sounds of the forest became more distinct and haunting. The rustling of leaves, the hooting of distant owls, and the occasional snap of twigs echoed through the woods. In an attempt to distract myself, I decided to read from an old book I had brought along, a collection of ghost stories from around the world. Little did I know that this seemingly innocent act would awaken something dormant in the depths of the woods. As I read the chilling tales, the woods seemed to react. The crackling fire danced wildly, casting eerie shadows that seemed to take on a life of their own. I couldn't shake the feeling that the spirits from the stories were watching me, whispering from the pages, waiting to reveal themselves. Suddenly, a sharp gust of wind extinguished the fire, plunging me into darkness. Panic gripped my heart as I fumbled for my flashlight, but its feeble beam only served to make the shadows more sinister. I had a sinking feeling that I was no longer alone. A soft giggle echoed through the woods, chilling me to the bone. It was a sound that belonged to a child, yet it carried an otherworldly quality that made my skin crawl. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling. No answer came, but the giggling persisted, moving closer and then fading away, as if teasing me. My heart pounded, and my instincts screamed at me to leave, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was trapped in some malevolent game. As I mustered the courage to stand and leave, I caught sight of a faint glow among the trees. A dim light, like that of a lantern, danced in the distance. It seemed to beckon me, promising safety and a way out of the darkness. Compelled by both fear and curiosity, I followed the eerie light, hoping it would lead me to a path back to civilization. But as I trudged deeper into the woods, the trees seemed to close in on me, their branches twisting and reaching out like skeletal fingers. The giggling grew louder, echoing all around me, and the light that once promised salvation now felt like a malevolent lure, guiding me further into an inescapable trap. My heart pounded in my chest, and I realized that I had stumbled into the domain of something beyond comprehension. In the distance, I saw a figure standing among the trees, shrouded in darkness. It was the source of the haunting laughter. As I got closer, I noticed its eyes, two glowing orbs that pierced the night like a predator's gaze. Fear paralyzed me as the figure stepped forward, revealing a spectral child with an ethereal aura. The child's face was serene, but its eyes held ancient wisdom and sorrow beyond its years. I was in the presence of a lost soul, one that had wandered the woods for centuries. With a trembling voice, I asked, "Who are you?" The child's response sent a chill down my spine. "I am the one forgotten, the one left to roam these woods. Tell my tale, let the world remember me." In that moment, I understood that this tormented soul sought release, seeking someone to carry its story beyond the confines of the woods. I nodded, promising to share its tale, hoping that in doing so, I could finally break the curse that bound it to the shadows. As the first light of dawn broke through the trees, the child's spectral form began to fade, leaving me alone in the woods once more. The haunting giggles were replaced by the songs of birds, and a sense of peace settled over the forest. I made my way back to civilization, carrying with me the burden of that encounter. The woods had whispered a tale of lost souls and forgotten memories, a haunting reminder that darkness lurked in even the most serene of places. And as I share this story, I hope to honor the restless spirits that dwell deep in the heart of the woods, hoping that one day they may find peace.
Thank you for watching. If you like this content and would like more, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps bring more viewers like you.